YouTube?
Oh, you know what's
So your Google searches are filtering what ads you end up seeing. So you will see ads targeted to you unless you go through and you turn it off.
But I don't have. Why do I always get Grammarly ads? I don't search up Grammarly.
Actually, your Worthington account might be locked down, but it doesn't feed the algorithm, and it might just know you're a student, and therefore it feeds you student-esque ads.
Oh.
Because your account may be set up as a student account.
All
My
ads
normal
are
account
like
has ad blocks,
like
so.
anti-cigarettes or anti-vaping.
Well, because you're a kid, right? They're targeting you. My Google probably knows I don't smoke because I never see any advertisement having to do with vaping or anything like that.
Google just knows.
Google knows.
Why would you type in your Chrome?
I bet you people that smoke or vape or whatever search for things, like buy things on Amazon, or like it probably knows. Mr. Estes and I were talking about.
Sorry,
Did you just throw it?
No, he did the thing. It was like, watch the vape disappear. It's gone.
So do we all have these problems written down? I don't want you to feel like you have to do all of those all of the homework. These are the problems that I have picked as being most important. I never like you to have more than 6. And likewise on that, we're skipping the first problem.
Yay.
Because if we went to factor these and solve for what x makes it true, I think we could do that because they're all rational numbers.
And because it was on the homework.
And because it was on the homework. So this is where I think we need more practice, especially based off what we were doing yesterday. So you don't have to copy these tables down, but let's pull the important information. So like for A, what is our important information that we're going to look at here and then use to build an equation? Like what should I highlight?
Wait, for A, why does go 6, 0,
Never mind.
Wait, this?
Never mind. Yeah, then.
And
then
Y-intercept.
These?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Athena. These are the x-intercepts because
so
the y is 0. This is the y-intercept because the x is 0. So, let's go and write those points down.
Okay. No.
Well, yeah, well, we will get there, but let's write these down. I agree with you. So now, Sammy, you were trying to say?
The difference.
The difference between your x-intercepts, right, which is 5. So now we use that to Liang. Yeah, so we do that by David.
Oh no. Crap. I know how to do this. X-intercepts and you find the center of the x-intercept.
What's the center of your x-intercepts here?
0.5.
Close. Ah, there it is. Negative 0.5. And then jump it around. You ruined my whole bounce.
Well,
So, wait, plug that into the equation.
Oh no, did I do the wrong thing?
We don't have an equation.
Oh no, we're screwed.
We're not screwed.
wait.
I wouldn't lead you down that road.
Wouldn't it be like x, like minus, like the thing that x, like minus 3?
I already have a baby. I don't need another.
What?
I don't know what you're doing, but if it's one of those tiny childs, I don't want it.
Oh wait.
I'm designing my new advertisement for anti.
No, I don't have a real child.
Oh sorry, you just said I have.
But the girls that were bringing the bag of babies around gave me a small child.
Oh right.
So.
Yeah, so like on the bus, Natalie was.
David, are you ready?
What are you doing? No, hey, we're talking about. Hey, do you even have those points written down on your paper, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, you do. Never mind. But we don't have an equation. How do we get an equation?
You use the rectangle and the.
Nope.
You do the, like the,
You do the
isn't it like x minus 3 and
it's something.
x plus 2?
Close. It's not x minus 3x plus 2. It is
X plus 3, x minus 2.
x plus 3, x minus 2. So please on your paper, ignore that table for a moment. We're going to write x plus 3 and x minus 2. Now we're not sure that this is the actual right equation, but we know that this is part of it. There might be a multiplier out here. We'll figure that out in a minute. So this derives x squared plus x minus 6, right? if we FOIL it, make sure that you can get the same result as me. Don't just say, oh yeah, okay. Right? First, outers, inners, last.
Yeah, my brain likes that.
Your brain what?
My brain thinks it is the correct answer.
Oh.
Your brain will start to very quickly process the outer and the inner together. Because especially if there are no coefficients to here, you just add these and put an X, right? Now it's when there are coefficients you have to be careful. How do we check if this is actually our equation?
You factored that
Equal it to
What,
zero?
factoring it would get us back to here.
So
Wouldn't
that's
you
how you check,
equal
right?
both?
Okay, nope.
Check it with the y-intercept.
Oh yeah, equals y and then you
What should this equal?
0.
0. So this is equal to 0.
And that's equal to 0. And
Oh,
if
match.
x equals the same thing, then
So
How could we know if this is actually right for the rest of our parabola? Obviously this is right for the zeros, but remember, what changing that a, I say remember, but I need to make sure that actually we are clear on this. If we go look at Desmos, and we type in our x plus 3, x minus 2, right? Our zeros are what they are. But a doesn't change the zeros, it changes everything else. So how do we check if we have an a or if a is just 1?
wait, what when a equals 0, wait. So
When a equals 0, the whole thing equals 0.
Oh.
It is just 0.
I like how it just, it's like a curve and then goes flat and then
Make a
curves
frowny
again.
face. No, it's just okay.
Yeah, well, so it changes the y-intercept, so couldn't you just check it to see if it works?
Check another point.
That's
Any of the other points, actually. If you don't have the y-intercept, and if we turn the parabola sideways, there isn't a y-intercept necessarily. We don't need to have the y-intercept to do this, but we can use the y-intercept when x is okay, well, okay, that works.
Yeah.
If you want to doubly check, check another point. What about 1, negative 4? So 1 squared, 1, plus 1, okay, 2 now, minus, that works. This is our equation, because it works for the other points.
Oh.
So this is really just a 1, which doesn't matter, so this is our equation. Try that with b on your own.
Oh wait, but then we use that equation to figure out the y for the vertex thing, right?
What?
Okay, because we found 0.5 as one of the.
Oh, yeah, sorry, then if we were going to go find the vertex, we can do that. But if it just asked us for the equation,
Does it just ask us for the equation?
we didn't really need to find the vertex. Now, if we were trying to put this on a graph, that might be useful. But really, we just know it's in between here and here. We could find the apex value by just plugging this in. It's going to be further down than -6. Probably just -7, because the slope has to slow down. And actually, we can look at Desmos and see where it is. -6.5, actually. Yeah, so if we plug that in, it would actually be -6.5 for the vertex. Or 6.25. Because a half gets squared, probably. Yeah, because the half gets squared, that makes the quarter. You're looking at me with wide eyes, but
I'm confused about why you're still talking about this one.
I get it.
Because you're supposed to be doing the other one.
Wait, the other one's b, right?
Yeah. What's the other one? Besides b.
What are our binomials that we use?
I
X
think I
plus
found
5
the equation.
times x minus 1.
Yeah, x plus 5, x minus 1, right?
Did I do? Oh no, I did this right. I think I did it right. I think.
Which makes x squared
Plus 4.
plus 4x minus 5.
Yeah.
I did it right.
Yeah.
This is our quadratic,
Yeah.
though, so if we want to check something else.
I did. I checked 2, 7.
Wait, why does it
That
have to
was-
equal 0? Like if x
because that is when y is 0.
Oh, okay.
It works.
Right? At those points is when y is 0. So check another point, whether it's your y-intercept or something else. The y-intercept is pretty easy to check because it's your constant. So if we change the intensity, if we put in an A, it's going to change the y-intercept.
Yeah.
Right? Because the zeros stay in the same place. So it like pulls on that vertex, it will change where that y-intercept is. Sweet. So if we take this to look at Gwen's water balloon, or sorry, this is not the water balloon yet. Water balloon we help imp. Let's try to make this fluid here. So this, the binomials would be x
Plus 3. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, x plus 3 and x minus 2.
So this then, think through your FOIL. X squared.
Plus x minus 6.
Ooh, this is that same one, right?
Yeah.
Is it the same table?
No.
No.
The y
No,
values
you have
are.
to have it always
Oh,
multiplied by
it
2.
is the same here.
Ah, so wait a minute.
Is it the
Oh,
same?
it's-
This,
No,
it's not the same. It has the same zeros. It's not the same table.
Is
We
it
just went back and checked.
2 because
Yeah, so when they
Two,
get to
yeah.
Two
No,
because
it'd be
two.
2 because
Times 2.
Oh, and I what?
Yeah.
Right, so that distributes. And if I come down here, it would still just distribute to each of the pieces.
So
And
2.
So to make this true, I hear you all.
2.
Since this has to equal negative 12, and it wouldn't when x is 0, if we make a 2,
Oh, snap.
then this becomes 2x squared plus 2x minus 12,
X is 0 is negative.
and that is true. Too true, if you ask me.
Okay, y'all need. Oh my god. You have your daily math puns medicine. Oh no.
Hold on, we're not even going to do this. What if we don't know the other 0? What can we do to help imp?
Oh, we don't know the other X.
Well, not right now.
Well, we know
Well,
that we
you
just
know the-
reflect it, so we know.
Yeah, because we know the vertex.
Ah. Both ideas merge together, right? So if we reflect it, we know that the upward part of his path is from
12, 0, right?
Yeah, so this point is where?
7.5.
725. This distance was how far? 5, right? So we go another 5, 12, and that's our other 0.
Wait.
So even if we don't have,
725.
somebody help me out.
So you see 24, 25, 24. It's
Oh, okay, yeah.
just
see it.
look.
Parabolas are
Okay.
symmetric, right?
Yeah.
Look for that symmetry, and then you know the point in
21,
between.
24, 25, 24.
Understood.
Are we all good on that?
Wait, but where'd you get the
We're
5
done with
from?
this lesson. What?
Where'd you get 5 from?
Because it's.
6.
Go ahead.
It's 6 minus 2. The distance between the 0 and the.
Oh,
Negative
minus
2 minus 2.
I mean 7.
7 minus 2. So the parabola started, my 0 was at 2, right? My
Okay.
apex was at 7.
It's the distance between.
And then
distance
you
is
add
5.
another 5, you guys will.
So we go another 5 and we get 12.
Good
Are we
job.
all good on
Good
this?
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. Record time, we're done with this lesson.
The
Really?
what?
Record?
Not the whole day, but that
Oh.
lesson.
That's
So
why-
now
That's why you decided to do 2.
we make every connection.
You know what we should do?
And actually, there's another reason why we're doing 2 lessons today. We got to do 2 lessons at the beginning of next week, potentially, but they're good ones to merge together, and we will be able to get to the mastery by Friday.
Was it because we were slow?
No, no, you guys are moving at a great
If
pace.
we get to the mastery, we might not finish it then.
But you also have Monday. Tuesday's
Oh,
Turkey Bowl. But yeah, we have Friday and Monday for the mastery.
Oh,
All right, so now several parabolas and equations are shown below. Match each graph with its appropriate equation. So,
I was gonna say that.
yeah, we're gonna have to shrink this down, right?
Yeah. That'd be helpful.
So now with all of these having integer zeros,
Oh, wow.
I really think that we could do this pretty quickly.
Oh, well, we should look at that.
Good enough.
Got it? Yeah.
Now wait, what do we know about graphs like 3? Because really I just kind of want to discuss.
They only have one x-intercept.
They only have one x-intercept.
Oh, because the x-intercept is its vertex.
So what type of equation are we looking for then there?
Equation 1.
It's got a special name.
Perfect square?
Here is the second
Because
x-intercept.
so like A, it's like it'd be like negative
For
3.
difference of
Yeah,
squares?
perfect.
No.
I feel like it'd be perfect.
Perfect.
Watch the second
Yeah.
x-intercept and
No, it wouldn't be negative 3 because it's
If you
negative
want.
Good
three.
catch.
Become 4.
Do not fall in the trap. People will look at negative 3 and they'll be like, oh, it's got 1 0, and they will choose H. It is not H. It's the opposite of the X. Right? So
Yeah.
3 matches to A.
Because
Right?
yeah.
magical.
Hold on. If we see that it is this direction,
This
what
should
does
be
that tell us?
Negative.
It's a negative x squared
And a positive y-intercept.
Yes.
and a positive y-intercept.
So
Now the fact that this is negative 2, positive 2,
Oh snap.
what does
Different.
that
Difference
tell
of
you?
squares?
It's a difference of squares, which means what is special about the equation?
It's
It's
No
reverse.
No b value, right?
Yeah.
So is D the only option with no? Yeah, so it's gotta be D,
I said it was
right? It's a negative because it's upside down, and it's a difference of squares, so it's missing a b.
Okay.
Is this starting to become easier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think back to yourself 2 weeks ago when we started
I
talking
don't
about
remember
quadratics
what
and
we
parabolas.
did 2 weeks ago.
I mean, you overteach hard.
Was it beneficial?
Not
Yes.
he kind of overteached, but not because it's still technically this like around
You're
the
gonna
same
need to
time.
know it, right?
So
So at the moment it was overteaching, but now you're looking at these and you're like, oh yeah, that, yep, yep.
That
You guys are doing great.
Y'all know that means
So what about, is there anything else special here? What about 4? 4 is an interesting one.
4 has
um
wait a minute.
it goes to the origin.
That's special.
So would it
Is
just
that
be like
special
x?
about it?
Would it just be x plus like 0? Or just x?
Oh,
Now,
there's no
a
C.
couple of
There's no
you
C.
on the test that I'm going to hand back at the end of class today
Oh.
struggled with factoring when, like, really you worked with numbers that were too big because you didn't start by factoring out something common.
Oh.
So can we get our test
I
ready?
may or may not have done that.
Ooh.
I may or may not have done
Anyone
that.
have a guess of what 4 would match to?
4 would
Why?
match to if positive G.
I has a lot of 4s in it, so probably I.
It wouldn't have a y value because it's 0.
Oh no, wait,
right?
no, it's G because
Oh,
there's
C
there's no
value.
Y, there's
It
no
does
C,
have
there's no C.
But
Cause the y-intercept's
Is
0.
0.
So
So
it
it
has
doesn't
to
have
be
a
G.
So you had a question mark on yours. Do you want Liang to explain it? Because he
Yes.
sounds like Liang, go ahead, explain to us why it's G.
It would be G because there's no C value and its y-intercept is 0, so just you would have no y-intercept.
Smart child.
That's
The y-intercept is 0, right? The y-intercept is, this is the y-intercept of 0. Also, this is x times x minus 4. Right? The x is a common fact because this is x plus 0 or x minus 0, right? That 0 is just an x on the outside. Does that make sense? Okay, we can keep moving.
Oh, we just skipped. Okay.
We are quality control at our whatever factory we call
This
this.
quadratic looks like a monster.
Cruella de Vil, maybe?
Maybe.
Did you ever realize that Cruella de Vil is really just Cruel Devil?
Yeah.
It took me a long time. Did I just blow some minds?
No, that's what I thought it was.
Look, it
at
took
first
me
because it
forever to
sounds
realize
like
that.
it.
Alright, so here's your task. You have one of the worst jobs in the world, reading people's complaints.
Why would I do that? No, it's like receptionists where they pick up the phone. They're like, I have a complaint. Can I speak with your manager? Or like people who
So, you have been tasked to read through these complaints. Our job here is to investigate the situation with your graphing calculator. Merry Christmas.
It's
Get
not
one.
Christmas.
Happy birthday.
I get 2.
Wait, you just
get
took
more.
2?
Yay.
No, wait, I like the pink one because it's special.
They don't need, I don't know why you took 2. They each have their own.
Why did I take 2? I feel like I'm gonna put it on you. You gave me 2.
I had 2 in my hand.
I did too. I took 2.
Alright, So, work with your team. We have, even to get you out of here to lunch, like, really on time, we have at least 15 minutes. I want to not talk, right? Because I feel like I do a lot in our class, and I want to make sure that, like, you guys are learning all this.
Yeah,
So you're not going to be able to see these
Teach
funny
us
names.
stuff.
Troubled in Texas, agitated in Alaska, whatever.
What would
So I'm scrolling up so you can see all these.
what would Ohio be?
Right. Work through.
Oh,
Hey,
outrage.
work through A. Come to a resolution. Pitch it to me, and then we'll move on to B.
Wait,
Okay.
so what are we doing?
You're reading the complaints, and you are figuring out how to respond. You either take care of the situation, tell them they're silly and they're wrong. Like, what is the complaint valid? And if so, what are we gonna do?
What else can I pretend these are like phones, you know?
Alright, show me this icon. So I can actually read.
Okay.
When you were a kid, you mean still now?
They
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
give you
Oh,
anything
yeah.
else. It could be
Alright, there's no
anything.
Y-intercept for the first one. That's the thing.
Did you read the complaint?
It says I ordered and passed.
Order a parabola.
You need to give another x-intercept.
It
No,
didn't.
no,
So we
why?
sent you the wrong one because you didn't specify the Y-intercept.
No, wait, do we have to really like write an actual like?
No, you just have to pitch it. You have to come to me like I was your supervisor and tell me what happened.
Wait, you know what A
Well,
should
What
be?
happened to perturbed in Pennsylvania?
It should be
They
penitent
didn't
They
order
perturbed.
Y.
need to do
They didn't
it's
do
wrong
Y.
because they didn't give us the Y-intercept. They need
The x
to give us a
We can't find the.
They need to give us an x-intercept.
Okay.
Remember you just appointed.
No, they gave us a y-intercept. We need
Only
the
one.
x-intercept.
Guys, it should
In
be
A?
Pettigrew in Pennsylvania.
A gives us X values.
Oh.
Right, which those are the X-intercepts.
Okay.
Right, because the X values. So it is missing
Oh
the
wait, oh yeah, I
Y-intercept.
was reading those wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, y-intercept.
So
Now also,
B also.
do we know what direction the parabola should be opening?
No.
No. So like, they need to
Tell
give us
us-
something
tell us
else.
if it opens up or open down.
And
the
then give us another
Y-intercept.
point,
Like,
right?
Tell them that
Give
your
us
claim
two
has,
more
your
points.
complaint has been denied.
Your complaint has been responded to with
Another complaint.
another complaint. I'm mad about you. All right, what about B?
About your uncle.
B.
There's no Y-intercept again.
B says, I want a parabola that hits the x-axis only once.
So then that would be the.
So hold on, what type of parabola is this going to be?
Perfect square.
Perfect square.
We need Y-intercept.
We need another point.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what about C?
I'm such a all I want is like
Okay, you should never have a company statement that says my needs will be met no matter what.
Are you kidding? What about the Michael Scott Paper Company that says satisfaction is our guarantee because our guarantee is your satisfaction?
It's clearly not true. Are you satisfied?
We guarantee that you will be satisfied because your satisfaction is our guarantee. We guarantee it. I love the Michael Scott Paper.
Is that a real thing?
It's a joke from about 5 episodes of The Office,
It's
where
Michael
Michael Scott
Scott.
spins out of The Office and starts his own company.
Yeah, I've heard of
Michael
yeah.
Scott.
It's
We have
No,
to
but
do C.
it's so hilarious. It's like I'm not satisfied.
Yeah, instead of
with
solving
it.
C, David is upset about their company statement.
You said
we don't know. He doesn't say what he ordered.
Help,
Like
I
what
am
he said.
He said he ordered.
What would he need to say then?
You need the X-intercept and the Y-intercept.
But he shows it there, so we
Yeah,
just
he
make him
shows
the
us
one
it there.
there.
So why don't we just make that?
Because he has it.
Every
know what
time
else
I
is
order
funny?
this
That's our company's fault.
He says, all I want is a parabola that looks like this, and he draws the parabola for us.
Can I
Yeah,
just
it's-
Why is he ordering a parabola from us if he drew the parabola
Yeah,
on his
like,
own?
They're like dumb people.
That's-
in this world.
Well, okay, it's really cold in Alaska, so let's just assume he's frozen.
Agitated.
Alright, last thing we're gonna do, and then I will let you guys start your homework, at least I think. We can,
Quality
there, vertex.
control?
Quality.
That was what we just
control.
did.
Oh.
Why would you freaking make
Are
up
we
your
done?
parabola
Or
that you have to
extra.
Alright, hold up.
Do teachers use the parabola?
What?
Hit me up with a parabola. Like, do math teachers just like when they get bored?
It's not a real thing.
I know.
Oh, it
they
is a
are
real thing. It
pathetic.
models like motion and stuff like that.
Not the parabola.
So there was a lot of this sort of math to get that rover on Mars.
Yeah.
Right? Like when we're talking about like physics and forces, a lot of this comes into play.
Velocity.
Alright, so thinking back to our water balloon contest, a journalist from the school newspaper wants to publish the results. She wants an equation for each launch so she can program her computer to create the graph for the article. Examine the graph on the right that represents the height of Jen's toss. Write an equation for this parabola. Use your graphic calculator to check your equation. This is sometimes one of the more difficult things is take the parabola as shown on the graph and make the equation.
Would
Then
you just like get the points and then do what you did, like factoring it and then getting the equation out of it?
Okay,
But
so
it's not. That doesn't seem that.
the vertex is
for normal
432,
students
right?
sometimes.
For normal
Wait, am I
students.
counting this
It's
right? The
5.
vertex, four.
Isn't it?
That's 4.
What are your
Oh,
zeros?
4.
432 is the vertex.
Yeah, because your zeros are 0 and 8, right? So it's got to be at 4.
And then
All of our boxes go by 1.
32. Yeah, 432.
Oh wait, so one of the x-intercepts and the y-intercept is 0, 0, right?
Right when you look at this, is there going to need to be an A?
Yes.
Definitely.
There's always an A.
It's upside down. Well, okay, there is always an A, but it
So-
for sure has to be negative to
If
begin
it's
with.
negative, it has to have an A? Because it's
It has to like it has to turn
Isn't
negative
there
somehow.
Okay, yeah, but you said A.
So think about it.
It
Well,
could-
okay, like Sammy said, there's always an A, but think about it.
Yeah.
We have these zeros that would give us x minus 8
Okay.
and just x, right? Because the 0, 0. And if I need this to open this direction, this would give me x squared minus 8x. This would be upward.
Okay.
That would be upward parabola, right? So we have to decide
Also, wouldn't
what goes here. It's at least a negative 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Which
it's
actually
x.
makes this negative x squared positive 8x.
Okay.
But now we have to test, does that work? What's 4 squared? 16. What's the opposite of that?
Negative 16.
Negative 16 plus 8 times 4.
32.
That is
16.
minus 32, so.
No, wait, negative
No.
16 plus 8 times 4, which is 32.
Oh, wait,
So
no,
16.
16.
So that's 32. So wouldn't it? We try negative. Wouldn't it be
Yeah,
negative 2?
So negative 2 makes this negative 2x squared plus 16x.
So it'd be.
That doesn't look like a number.
Negative 32 plus.
That's the equation statement.
Is it?
Yeah, it'd be negative.
Now this works.
That seems magical.
Okay, are we done? Oh no.
X. Ow, releases yard line.
Yeah, the homework problems that I chose are on the tougher side. Let's just go ahead and work on the practice one.
Okay.
I mean, you guys are feeling comfortable with this, right?
Yeah.
The only reason to do more is if we need more practice. If we're trying to be mathematical, it's a waste of time if we don't need more practice.
I think I got it.
I think I got it.
So the only difference with
I
Al
can always come
is
see
he
you if I don't
releases.
get it.
So like I'll solve this out. So if you want to keep watching, I like doing math.
Oh, well,
So
I guess it's good you're a math teacher.
Al releases at the 10-yard line. It lands at the 16-yard line. The balloon reaches a max height of 27 yards, and that would be at the 13-yard line. So 1327 is a point that we have. So this would turn into x squared.
I don't think I ever actually read the.
I don't.
We guarantee that you will be satisfied because
What?
you are satisfactory, so I'll guarantee. We guarantee.
Guarantee.
I don't think I've ever actually read that on that.
I think they have a conversation about it's all about the guarantee that you provide your customers, and Michael Scott would think up something like that.
The second
Yeah.
intercept.
So this is for sure wrong because it doesn't have the negative. So the first thing we would say is, well, we need a -1, and this becomes negative x squared positive 26 and negative 160 or minus. And then we check our vertex point and modify as needed.
Brilliant.
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 Alright. Feel free to ask questions if you hit any snags on those practice problems. I'll even put them up here if you want.